Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
How is it that a former United States Marine from Texas with a poli-sci major finds himself deeply involved in the spiritual and administrative life of St. Joseph's Indian School? Let's talk with Father Greg Schill, SCJ, and learn all about it. Hello, Medakiepi. Welcome to Hochoka here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School's campus. I'm Scott Wooster, your Hochoka host. Today we're talking with Father Greg Schill, SCJ. Father Greg first joined us here at St. Joe's in summer of 2021 as chaplain and spiritual director. He's had some time to get to know all of us, and what better time than now to help our audience get to know him better as well. Father Greg, warm welcome to you at Hochoka.
And thank you, Scott, for having me here. It is wonderful to be here today.
Awesome. Let's note that as of August, we have new leadership at St. Joseph's. Jenny Renner-Meyer is Chief Executive Officer with responsibility for St. Joseph's Indian School, the corporate services area, and all other apostolates of the Priests of the Sacred Heart in South Dakota. Father Greg Schill is president and serves as spiritual advisor with responsibility for integrating the mission, beliefs, and values of the Priests of the Sacred Heart into their work in South Dakota. Also with them on the management team are Corey Christensen, Executive Director of Development, and Robin Connect, Executive Director of Child Services. So we'll start off with a little thing that we do here at Hochoka called Rapid Fire. I'm going to hit you with questions. You give me a brief answer, and we'll move on to the next question. And if there's something I need to unpack at the end of that, we'll take care of that.
Excellent.
Okay. So, the best food.
For me, the best food is chicken enchiladas or anything Mexican.
Okay. Best music.
I like soft music or like sort of like what they call white noise these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were younger,
I used to take an interest in hiking. It's something I've always had a passion for and something I continue to do today. I kind of started at that very youthful age.
Okay. Failure is?
Failure is acknowledging growth and taking the next step toward success.
Yeah. And success is?
Learning from the past and accompanied by a positive attitude.
There we go. Your secret indulgence is?
I love chocolates. Can't hide that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Listen and learn.
Okay. Best advice you've ever given?
Having a positive attitude.
Yeah. Your favorite Old Testament prophet?
It's the prophet Isaiah.
Okay. And your favorite book of the Bible?
First book of Kings.
Okay. If you could be any place, it would be?
Somewhere in the mountains of western Montana. Been there in the past. I love it. I'd love to go back.
Yeah, it's beautiful there for sure. Being at St. Joe's is?
It's quite a welcoming environment, and I must acknowledge, as we were talking earlier about, we've known each other for 4 years, and that's the duration of time I've been here at this point.
Yep.
Welcome, even after 4 years, has not even been close to being worn out.
Yeah,
it's just a welcoming environment.
Absolutely.
So,
okay, so I'm gonna circle back on a couple of those. One, a couple deserve a longer explanation.
Okay.
Your favorite Old Testament prophet, I think you said Isaiah?
Correct.
And why?
So the prophet Isaiah, my favorite prophet, because he lived through a lot of turmoil, and he still expressed hope even in the midst of turmoil, because he was a prophet during the time of an exile for Israel, but still saw hope in the future that something greater would come and bring hope and joy to the people.
Yeah, and you talked about positive attitude and a hopefulness too, and I think that's got to influence you in some way too.
That's correct.
And your favorite book of the Bible? Remind me what you said.
First book. My favorite book of the Bible is the first book of Kings. For me, I think it's because it kind of offers some historical accounts in there, talking about the line of kings and successions following the judges and the prophet Samuel and so on and so forth. And I just kind of get fascinated by that and David's unification of Israel, but also followed subsequently by the work of Solomon.
Yeah. Yep. I'm guessing you're a history buff too, aren't you?
I love history.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for those answers to the brief questions. But let's get to know you a little better. And there's going to be things that a lot of folks on campus don't know about you. We see you day to day, but that doesn't mean we unpack each other's stories in that time. So we're going to unpack that today.
Okay.
Your childhood, what was it like? How was it formative as you moved along to what you do today?
Okay. So I grew up in the city of San Antonio, Texas, which I must say has grown significantly since I was a child. A lot more traffic than there was then. Where I was growing up was on the edge of the city, but now it's kind of just in the middle of the city with a lot of commerce just around that neighborhood. So going back to the time of childhood, just knowing it was on the edge of the city, we used to have a few little baseball fields on the edge of the neighborhood. So that's where I got acquainted with and got to know a lot of the people living in the neighborhood. And so the influence they had is, you would see them the next morning on the school bus and just saying, hello, what's up? And just kind of developing those friendships. Something very special about that I haven't forgotten, because a lot of people with a lot of good positive attitudes and good upbringings in that neighborhood.
Yep. Athletic, you were athletic and social when you were young?
Athletic, I will humbly admit I was not very athletic.
Okay.
I participated in playing a few sports here and there.
Yeah.
And luckily these friends of mine kind of understood that and were supportive of that.
Yep. Were you a churchgoer when you were young, or how did spirituality play into your life?
Yes. So we went to church every Sunday. And we had Sunday CCD classes immediately after Mass, and we did that every single year, grades 1 through 12.
Yep.
So my family made sure that we went to church and that we attended religious education classes as well.
What hit you where you decided that you were going to go in to be a priest of the Sacred Heart? And maybe that's a little farther down the road, but what built your religious life?
That's a great question. And immediately after high school, I went into the service, the Marines, as we had mentioned early on in the podcast. And I went there because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do right after high school. I didn't feel like I was ready to step into a college classroom. And I also humbly admit that I was getting tired of going to school after 12 years of going grades 1 through 12. So I wanted to go into the service, and there are many of the people I was assigned with, particularly in my first duty station in Okinawa, Japan, starting off with the anxiety of being so far away from home, thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean. I learned that those I was serving with also shared those anxieties, so it was an opportunity to just be there to support each other, be of service to each other, and kind of discover years later in reflection that was actually a ministry in itself, kind of an internal ministry with those people that I served with. So after the service, after I went into college, it was probably my third year in the university, I started seriously looking into the priesthood. And much of that was impacted by the time growing up and going to church and Sunday school, and B, the time in the service and realizing that some of that was actually a ministry in itself, and maybe this is something I might be able to actually do. And so I would decide to give it a try.
So you didn't necessarily know it all the way along. Little things were happening, but you picked up on that later after.
Took some processing and some reflection to do so.
So poli-sci, where did you go to college for that?
This is Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and I stress Edwardsville because the main campus is in the town of Carpendale, Illinois.
Okay.
But it's also part of the same system, but nevertheless in Edwardsville, which is a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
And so that's where I got my poli-sci degree with a minor in, with no surprise, history.
Exactly. So now you're set up. Now you go work in politics, or you teach history, or you do something like that. All of a sudden, you take a left turn. What'd that look like?
So third year in the university, I was so deep into the studies and the major, I didn't want to reverse that or take enough classes of philosophy, which I had to do anyway. I discovered as soon as I graduated from college and entered the seminary, they said, "Oh, you have to take 24 hours of philosophy." So I returned to undergrad school immediately after.
Okay.
But where did I turn? I was kind of juggling back and forth between possibly law enforcement. I'd actually looked at the FBI. I had looked at the Secret Service.
Wow.
And this was kind of that part of that rally around the flag thing. These were in the months immediately after 9/11.
Okay.
When I think many others were looking at doing the same thing. And my father was even telling me right now a lot of people in those fields are getting ready to retire. So this might be a good time to go at it and apply. But then for some reason I said, I think there's more that I can do, and I don't have to necessarily do that to possibly impact others.
Yeah.
And so I decided to explore the possibility of religious life and priesthood.
Yeah.
And so here I am, 22, 23 years later.
Right. So it took you to Milwaukee, I assume? Did it take you there right away? I mean, how did you end up as an SCJ?
So I had looked randomly for religious communities, not really knowing too much about them.
Yep.
And so I basically had to make a few phone calls and inquiries to different religious orders to learn a little bit more about them. Yeah. The Priest of the Sacred Heart is one of the ones that responded to my inquiries and invited me to what was called a come and see, to actually stay at the seminary with the students to see what it's like and what they study and what their life is like. And I was attracted to that.
Yep.
And of course, I didn't have 100% certainty at that time that I wanted to join them, but I said I'm going to give it a try and commit myself to 1 year here and see how it goes. And that 1 year commitment at this point has now turned into 22 years.
Yeah. So it fit just right, and I'm glad it did, because part of it is, as we've known each other, I see you in that role. It makes sense to me. You wear that role well. I got to admit, when I read the script and found out you were a Marine, I thought, well, that doesn't seem to fit the person that I know now, a Marine or even a Secret Service agent or something like that. It surprised me. But you wear this role well, is how I would put that. So you end up in here at St. Joe's Indian School 4 years ago. How did that sit? How did you find your way here from Milwaukee? What was that like?
This is a great story. So I served in the state of Mississippi for 10 years in parish ministry. We had 6 parishes that are staffed by the SCJs down there in northern Mississippi, which used to be very rural, but it's all basically suburbs of Memphis, Tennessee now.
Okay.
As many places are growing throughout the United States. I was there for 10 years, and one day my provincial had an annual visitation meeting with me. It happened on Zoom because this is right at the height of COVID. And so he was talking to me about how I'm doing and how is my assignment going. And I said, well, Father Ed, I've been here for 10 years now. And he cuts me off and says, I was going to talk to you about that. And I said, well, before you do, can I say something to you? And he goes, go ahead. Is the position of chaplain at St. Joseph's Indian School open right now? And he just basically slides his chair back, falls back and said, Greg, I was going to talk to you about this. And if you really want to do this, you just made my day and my week and my life a lot easier if you're going to tell me yes. And I said, I had a feeling this position was open. Something just told me the night before. And this is a story I've told in the past, that only the night before I had this Zoom call, I had thought about St. Joseph's. It just all of a sudden entered my mind. So from 10 p.m. to probably 2 in the morning, I was doing research on St. Joseph's, looking at their Facebook, their social media. So I didn't get much sleep that night.
Yeah.
I was excited to talk about it. And so with a little sleep, I talked to my boss the next morning. And he said, well, this is going to be a easy fix, because he informed me that Father Anthony was retiring and we need a replacement. And thank you for saying yes to that. So
wow.
So that's how it happened.
Serendipity. Yeah, that's great. So you end up, you didn't know anything about you must have heard of St. Joe's, had an idea of that, all of the schools, all of the SCJ programs are all kind of...
So I made a visit here about 20 years ago. I stayed here for several days for a retreat for my novitiate year. Father Steve was my retreat director for this particular occasion. He had just started his first, or maybe it was his second year at St. Joseph's, and said there was something about it that looked attractive and that I would think of put in the back of my head for future years, possibly to come here. But I hadn't thought about it for several years while I was in Mississippi. But then all of a sudden in 2021, it came back to me and I was looking into it, and I said, I haven't been here in years. I bet it's changed probably a lot since I was here. But I want to give it a try and see what happens. So
what do you think so far? You've been here 4 years. What's your assessment, the place, the people? Tell us about St. Joe's, your experience.
Yeah. People here are very nice. That's an observation I've made, very welcoming. Welcome, still not worn out yet, even after 4 years. In fact, having more than 300 employees, it's the largest SCJ entity in the United States province, the second largest in the world. So it's quite a large size organization. With many departments. But I've enjoyed, working with the people, celebrating Mass, spending time with our students, either visiting the classroom, visiting a student home, or just, the other day I was out there playing football. And the students, they love to ask questions, and I'm grateful for that. They're always going to, be pretty straightforward, honest with you.
For sure.
For example, this just happened yesterday. I was walking with one of the students on the MMIR. And he talked about throwing a football. And he said, do you think I could throw a football, Father? He's about 9 years old. And I says, well, you'll get better as you get older. And I had just played a football, tossing the football with him the day before. And he goes, how come you haven't gotten better? So I said, well, thank you for being honest. So my answer simply was, well, there are some things we don't all, are going to be successful in, but there's other things that we are. So I was just giving him a little advice on that.
Yeah. One thing that folks might not know of our audience, certainly, but one thing, as I've watched you in this position for 4 years, obviously you've got duties that you fulfill, but it's always, at St. Joe's, it's always about the relationships, whether it's with kids or whether it's with the adults. And you remember people's names, their stories, you really... and maybe this goes back to the old hood in San Antonio, but you're good at building relationships, getting to know people, and that sort of thing. It's been fun to watch, but I've watched you also flourish in one particular area. Your priest's home is up on the hill, and just down the hill from that is something pretty special and near and dear to your heart. Can you talk about that? I won't steal the lead from you. I'll let you say what it is.
Thank you. So just down the hill from the SCJ residence is the Equine Therapy Center. The building was completed in 2023, so it's a very new complex. And it's used to put the horses in, especially during the cold and winter months, and also for the many classes that the students have and the opportunities they have to interact with the horses. But there was just something fascinating about the horses going to St. Joseph's in 2021. I entered here not knowing anything about horses. Didn't really even know how to properly feed them or where to place my hand if I was going to give them a treat. And I've come to the point not long after arriving that I no problem going out there to be with the horses, walk with them, even if they're much bigger than I am, just to interact with them. And I've learned that they're, very friendly. Overall, they're very easygoing.
Yeah.
And I can understand why this is such a great program for our students, and some of our staff, too, benefit as well from this. I've seen a few staff walking the horses around campus, participating in that kind of a therapy, just to have a nice horse that's very relaxing to be around, that's quiet, that listens. And as one student said a few years ago, I think this is when I first arrived here at St. Joseph's, she said, what I like about the horse is you can tell them anything you want and they won't tell anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see, as we were building the barn, I remember they were pastured right outside your front door, right? So you have daily interactions with these horses, and I think you still do, even with the barn. You sometimes will go down, make sure the lights are shut off, everything's buttoned up at the end of the day. Those kinds of things, right?
Correct. And so at this time of year especially, I enjoy the time of year because as the weather is warmed up and they've been staying out in the pasture, it gets light a little earlier. So at 5:36 in the morning, I'm already up having coffee and looking out my window, and there they are out there either enjoying their food.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get into some early morning little fights.
Yeah.
You know, they're horses, but, you know, they're very good to have on campus and help our students benefit with all that they have to offer for us.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to thank you for being on at Hochoka, for coming here in kind of a serendipitous way 4 years ago, and let's look forward to the future.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank our audience for joining us here at Hochoka at the center of St. Joseph's Indian Schools campus, where we talk about issues that are central to Native American education today. Until next time, stay centered.